we see that the basic problem is the problem of material existence. We are originally from Vaikuntha. We are originally from spiritual world, from Goloka, and there was a time when living entity used to associate and serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But due to foolishness or some kind of desire to independently enjoy apart from Krishna, or to lord it over, to become an independent so called God, the living entity chooses to come to this material world. So, this fall down of a living entity is described in our literatures, that when a living entity falls down, because it does not have any karma, it's like a raindrop that is falling from the sky. The raindrop is pure, completely serene. So it has no adulteration because it has not come in the contact of any material contamination. So the same way, when a living entity falls from Vaikuntha, falls from the spiritual world, because of not having any karma, that living entity is given a very high position in the heavenly planets. It is also described that sometimes that living entity wakes up as Lord Brahma, or some very opulent and powerful demigod. But due to the association with the material world means the external energy of Krishna, Maya, which has two components or two aspects. Rupa Goswami explains that Maya Devi has two components. One is Avaranatmika Shakti, that means alluring potency. So Maya attracts the living entity to perform some kind of karma, some kind of activity, maybe sinful or maybe pious, but that is called alluring potency. And the second aspect is Prakshekatmika, kicking potency. Once an activity is performed, then the living entity is bound by the reactionary work. So today's verse we are reading that with sword in hand, intelligent men cut through the binding knots of reactionary work, because every activity binds us in the material world. If you perform pious activity, then you will be given a chance to go to heavenly planets and enjoy your pious credits. But you have to come back as soon as the pious credits are over. If somebody performs sinful activity, then he will be given punishment in the form of lower species of life, or may be condemned to hellish planets. And once the sinful activity, that karma is over, then again the living entity has to go through the cycle of birth and death through 8.4 millions of species to get a human form of life. So human form of life is very rare. So the first line of today's purport, Srila Prabhupada is explaining that the contact of the spiritual spark with material elements creates a knot which must be cut if one wants to be liberated from the actions and reactions of fruitive work. So as explained in the beginning, the living entity who just fall down, he gains a good position in the heavenly planet. But because of its association with external energy, the living entity glides down from the heavenly planets down to the earthly planets. And sometimes, because of the activities, based on the karma, based on the reactions, the living entity travels throughout the 14 planetary systems. So, what types of activities one can perform? So it is described there are three types of activities that can be performed by a living entity. The first type is karma. Karma also means good activities or punya karma. These are pious activities like feeding hungry or help the poor people, or giving charity, or performing sacrifices, or performing austerities, take care of the weaker sections or to give pleasure to other living entities is punya. But as explained, punya leads one to heavenly planets, but as soon as your punya, your pious credits are over, you will be again back to the earth. So the second type of activity is vikarma. Vikarma means papa or sinful activity. Sinful activities such as illicit sex, meat eating, gambling, intoxication, they give rise to hellish conditions, because meat eating, that means you have to kill animals and eat their flesh. That means you have to give pain to another living entity. And as Krishna says that everyone is Krishna's part and parcel. Krishna says, Aham bija pradha pita. Krishna is the father. Then how can we kill somebody's son and eat? And how can we please God if we are killing animals who are also Krishna's children? Because Krishna says that I am the father, seed provider. And Krishna says, Pita aham asya jagato, I am the father of the entire world. So that's why when you inflict pain upon others, that pain comes back to you in the form of reaction. So we see that vikarma or pap leads to hellish planet. And again, when these type of activities are over, then again you will be back. So the real problem is that we have to travel through all the species of life. Adya Shankaracharya defined the real problem of life as that punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, punarapi janani jathare shayanam. That is the real problem of life, that every now and then, you have to change these bodies. Why do we have to change these bodies if we are eternal parts and parcels of Krishna? Then why do we have to change the bodies? Because of the sinful activities. So the problem with vikarma is sinful activity leads to sinful desires, and those sinful desires again lead to sinful activities. So it's a vicious cycle. So any sinful activity performed gives rise to two types of things. So two things happen when somebody performs a sinful activity. It is explained that first thing that happens is physical or mental suffering is given as a reaction to that living entity. That is called as sanchita karma or prarabdha karma. That is reaction. And second is a proclivity is created within the mind of the living entity as a byproduct. So an example can be given that if somebody steals something from a shop, then naturally that person will develop a proclivity. Next time when that person will get another chance, then the desire will be more intense. So this is called kutam. So Srila Prabhupada explains how law of karma works. Srila Prabhupada says that every activity is like a seed, and every seed has its own intrinsic nature. If you throw seeds of mango, orange, papaya, guava, and all the fruits, if you throw all the seeds in the soil, and if you water them and you take care of them, it is not guaranteed which seed will sprout first and which seed will give rise to a plant, then which plant will grow into tree, and which tree will give rise to the fruit. It is very complicated, and that's why Krishna himself in Srimad Bhagavad Gita says that karmano gahana gati. It's very, very intricate law of karma. Very hard to understand and comprehend. So, according to nature, some karmic reactions come in this lifetime and some are stored for later. It's like seed. Some seeds are already sprouted. So those reactions are going to come in this lifetime. They are called prarabdha karma. Prarabdha means that is already destined for our body. Like we have received a type of body, short or tall, or black or white or brown, or beautiful or ugly, or somebody has healthy body or somebody has a sickly body. So it is determined by our previous activities, and that is called prarabdha karma. It is also destined that how many uh, moments are we going to stay in the body, what is going to be our death like, what type of death. So these all things are comprised in prarabdha karma. Aprarabdha karma means that which is not fructified yet, that is for the future. So as I was explaining that every sinful activity gives rise to proclivity, which is called kutam. So these are the types, what exactly happens when one performs a sinful activity. For example, somebody steals something, then next time he will have that proclivity which is already there in the heart. The desire to have illicit sex is not coming from somewhere else, it is there in the heart because of our past experiences. So that's why a proclivity is created which is called kutam. When somebody comes in contact, when the senses come in contact with the sense object, then that person or that proclivity may get stronger, and that turns into bijam, or it is called desire seed, which comprises of thinking, willing and feeling. That means the proclivity has gone stronger. That is called desire seed. That is called bijam. And third is phalonmukham. That means the person may now decide that I cannot just stay like this. Now he decides that I have to perform this activity. And that is called the actual action. That is phalonmukham. So this is explained in Padma Puran, and Srila Prabhupada quotes this verse. So this is also, all of this is comprised in the prarabdha and aprarabdha type of karma. So it is a cycle, vicious cycle, that sinful activity will give rise to kutam, proclivity. Then the proclivity will, get stronger, will give rise to desire seed, which is called bijam. Then the activity will be performed phalonmukham, and which will again lead to reaction in the form of kutam. So it's a vicious cycle. So, there is a story which Srila Prabhupada quotes, that there was one time there was a judge who was solving a case of a murder. So the murderer, he was proven guilty, and the judge passed the judgment that you will be given death sentence. And the judge asked, do you have any last wish to be fulfilled? So he said that back there is that old lady, that is my mother. I want to talk to her for the last time. So judge said, okay, I can fulfill that desire. So the judge asked the old lady, the mother of that criminal, to come forward. And as that lady came close, this murderer gave a tight slap to this old lady. And everyone was shocked. What kind of criminal is this? He is giving a slap to his mother. Then that criminal explained to everyone that because of this lady, today I am a murderer. If she would have stopped me, and if you would have given me a slap just like this, when as a small boy I stole a few pencils from a shop, if that day you would have given me a slap, I would not have turned into a robber, later on into a dacoit, and now today I'm a murderer. So the proclivity, this tendency to perform sin increases, and it turns stronger and stronger. So some people ask, can we perform good karma to eradicate or to cancel out bad karma? So the answer is given by Srila Prabhupada in Krishna book, in the story of King Nriga. One time there was a king who was very pious. At the same time, he performed some sinful activities also in his life. So when he passed away, he was given a choice that either in the next life you can decide, you can choose to enjoy your good karma, you can enjoy, or you can choose to suffer all the reactions of your sinful activities. So this king Nriga, he was a bit intelligent, and it is said he also worshipped Lord Krishna to some extent. He was not a devotee, but he worshipped Krishna in his life. So he said, let me suffer my sinful reactions first. So in the next life, he became a lizard. And the story continues that when Krishna was in Dwarka, Krishna's sons, princes of Dwarka, Samba, Pradyumna, Charu, Bhanu, Gada, these all children, they arranged a picnic. They all went to a forest, and there, after spending some time, they were very parched, they were very thirsty. So they started to look for some water. So they came across a well. They peeped inside to find that there was no water. It was dried out. But there was a lizard entrapped inside. So these princes, they felt compassionate for the lizard, and they thought, this lizard will die if we do not take him out. He's gonna die. So these all young princes, they tried their best to take the lizard out, but nobody could do that. But when they came back to Dwarka, they narrated this incident to their father Krishna. Father, there is a lizard entrapped there in a dried well in this forest, and surely it will die. So Shri Krishna, who is the best friend of all living entities, he felt compassionate, and Krishna he drove alone to that forest. He went to that well. He extended his hand. He took the lizard out by his hand. So that time, just because of the touch of Krishna, that lizard turned into a celestial being. That was the king Nrupa. And then Krishna explains, there is a conversation between them. But Krishna delivered this Nrupa. So the moral of the story, as told by Srila Prabhupada, is that the good karma does not cancel out bad karma. So in the Srimad Bhagavatam 5th canto, we see Shukdev Goswami explained to Parikshit Maharaj all the different types of hellish planets. So naturally, Parikshit Maharaj, being pure devotee, asked the question that where is the end? How does this vicious cycle of continuous birth and death and this cycle of sinful activities, how to stop these sinful activities? So in response, Shukdev Goswami tells the path of karma in the beginning. So he says that by performance of yajna, sacrifices for atonement of sins, or by giving charity, by doing dana, or by austerity, if somebody atones for the sin according to the austerities that are given in the Vedas, then one can really get rid of the sin. In the Vedas, it is very nicely explained for what kind of sin, what kind of atonement should be done. But, this path of karma is not that beautiful. Srila Prabhupada comments in that same section that it is like paying fine to the government for some small crime that you have committed. Sometimes, you break the signal and you get a ticket and you pay the fine. But Srila Prabhupada mentions that this doesn't solve the real problem of inclination or tendency to perform the crime again. So Srila Prabhupada disregards this type of karma, kanda. The next path is Jnana Marga or Jnana Kanda, that is path of empirical knowledge. So in today's purport, we see Srila Prabhupada is also mentioning that how this path is also not the supreme, is not the best. What happens in Jnana Kand is the Jnani or Yogi, he believes in attainment of knowledge, and through philosophical speculation he wants to understand the personality of Godhead. Most of the times Jnanis do not come up to that level. They only think that the ultimate absolute truth is formless, is impersonal. That's why they are called impersonalists. So that's why Prabhupada calls them as Mayavadi, because they think that ultimately at the time of liberation we will become Narayan or we will become Bhagwan. So that is their way of solving the problem of this vicious cycle of sinful activities. But Prabhupada in the same section comments that Jnana or yoga may help one to temporarily settle the contamination of the heart. So Prabhupada gives an example. He says it is like when there is some dirt in a glass of water. If you keep the water still, the dirt will go to the bottom for some time, right? And when the water again moves, the dirt again comes back. So for some time the Jnani may perform some austerity and stay away from sinning and going through the cycle of sin and reaction and birth and death for some time, but it is not permanent solution. Example is Vishwamitra performed penances for 60,000 years, and at the end what happened is Indra sent one beautiful damsel, a girl, Menaka, and just by the sound of her ankle bells, chum chum, and that's it. He is such austerity for 60,000 years. Everything went in vain. There is another example of Saubari Muni, who performed penances, who thought that this world is full of Maya, so I will not stay outside on earth. It's better to go inside water so that there won't be Maya inside. I will not be affected by illusory energy of Lord. So he thought, let me enter the water. He performed penances inside the water for many years. But one day he saw that a male fish and a female fish, they were mating. And just that sight agitated him and afflicted with lust. So we see these jnanis or yogis, they perform austerities, but that is not the permanent solution, like Srila Prabhupada mentions. So what is the best way to stop the cycle of sin and repeated birth? So the third type of activities, after karma, which is also called as punya or pious activities, and second one is vikarma, means sinful activities. The third one is akarma. Akarma means devotional service to Krishna, devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in Padma Puran, Madhya 15.169, it is said that aprarabdham phalam papam kutam bijam phalonmukham krame naiva praliyeta vishnu bhakti ratatmanam. So the translation is, there are different stages of dormant reactions to sinful activities to be observed in a sinful life. Sinful reactions may be just waiting to take effect, which is falonmukh. Reactions may further still be dormant, which is called kutam, or proclivity, or tendency, or inclination. Or the reactions may be in a seed like state, which is bijam. In any case, all types of sinful reactions are vanquished completely, one after another, if a person engages in the transcendental devotional service of Lord Sri Hari, Lord Vishnu. Kramenaiva praliyet Vishnu bhakti ratatmanam. So all these type of sinful activities, or even the seeds, even the proclivity and the tendency, the most subtle form of sinful tendency, that is called kutam, that is also eradicated completely by performance of devotional service. Srila Prabhupada gives one example in this regard, that by the path of karma kand, by the path of jnana kand, you can cut the grass, but by the process of devotional service, one can completely uproot the weeds or grass. So if you just simply cut it by the path of karma kand or jnana kand, it will grow again. So that's why devotional service is the highest. And we see that in the practical example in Srimad Bhagavatam, there was a Brahmana who was very pious, who was Ajamil. You must have heard this, but I will explain in the context of today's class. So he was very pious, and he was following the Brahmanical culture. He had nice wife, he had nice family. But one time while walking on the street, he saw one Shudra and one Shudrani. That one lower class man was embracing a lower class woman, a prostitute. And just that sight agitated him. So that is called kutam. He had the proclivity in the heart, and then he got attracted by that sight. And it is explained that later on he could not sleep. Everywhere he started to see that prostitute. He started to see her, and he could not be peaceful. So that is called kutam. And then he started to think, he started to have desire about her. That is called bijam. So the proclivity became strong, kutam became bijam, and ultimately he decided to just give up his family. He completely gave up his chaste wife, he gave up his parents, and he started to live with the prostitute. So this is called falonmukh, the actual activity of sin. Now this person, he started to live with the prostitute, and naturally for the maintenance he had to start earning money from somewhere. It is described he had 10 children from the prostitute. So he started to rob, he started to steal, he became a kind of dacoit. So he started all type of sinful activities. He became a gambler just for one activity of sin that he performed. Started to live with the prostitute, and he started to perform all types of sins. So this is how one sinful activity leads to another and another, and then it becomes a huge heap of sins. So it is described that somehow by the mercy of Lord, he named the 10th son, the youngest, as Narayan. And that naturally the parents have great affection for the youngest child. So he was 88 years old. He became very old, and naturally his time to leave this world, his time of death came. Because he was sinful, it is described that Yamadutas came. You know, the servants of Yamraj, they came to take his soul out of his body. And when he saw these fierce looking creatures, when he saw their ghastly bodies, he became so frightened. He started to call his young son Narayan, who was playing close by. So he started to call his son Narayan, Narayan. And this helpless cry was heard by Lord Vishnu in Vaikuntha. And he immediately called, Nanda Sunanda, come here. Somebody is calling my name. Somebody is helplessly crying my name, Narayan. Go find out. So Nanda and Sunanda, Lord Vishnu Dutas, Vishnu's servants, Nanda, Sunanda, they went to the site. They saw that this rascal is calling his own son Narayan. He is not calling our Lord. So they came back and they said, my master, he is not calling you. He is calling his own son Narayan. But Lord Vishnu, he is so compassionate. He is called, he is more keen to deliver the living entities than living entities' own interest to go back to Vaikuntha. So Lord Vishnu is called Bhuri Karuna. So he has more desire. He wants all of us to go back to Vaikuntha. He wants to stop the suffering. So Lord Vishnu said, no, he is calling helplessly my name. And there is only one Narayan, that is me. So go immediately and deliver him. So these Vishnu Dutas, Nanda and Sunanda, came back. And there is beautiful dialogue between Yamadutas and Vishnu Dutas. And finally, Ajamil is watching this thing, that these two are fighting for me. And ultimately, Vishnu Dutas deliver Ajamil. And Ajamil says, Kochaham kitava papa brahmagna nirapatrapa kvacha narayaneti iti bhagavan nama mangalam. So I was such a fool. I was the killer of my own soul. I was so sinful. And how come still Lord Narayan delivered me? So it is said that Ajamil never knew the glories of the holy name. But the holy name is so powerful that despite Ajamil was calling his own son, but still holy name is so powerful. So holy name delivered Ajamil. And Shukdev Goswami says, Mriyamana Harer Nama Grunan Putropacharitam Ajamil Api Agadhama Kim Puna Shraddhaya Grunan. If this Ajamil, who was calling his son, still Lord Vishnu delivered him. Ajamil never heard the glories. He never chanted the holy name of Krishna with love, with Shraddha. So Shukdev Goswami is asking, what will happen to that person who will cry out the name of Krishna with Shraddha? If Ajamil can be delivered, why can't we be delivered? And now, when these Yamadutas, the servants of Yamraj, they saw that for the first time, somebody escaped our Yamapash. Nobody can escape us. But for the first time, somebody escaped. So they went to their master Yamraj and they asked, who is this Narayan? How come we never knew? We thought you are the only supreme. We thought you are most powerful. Who is this Narayan more powerful than you? That time Yamraj answers that, my dear children, Namocharan Mahatmyam Hare Pashyat Putraka. What to speak of Lord Narayan's personality? Just utterance of his holy name can give the highest benediction to a person. Namocharan Mahatmyam Hare Pashyat Putraka. Just look, Ajamil, if Ajamil can be delivered by helpless utterance of the holy name of Shri Krishna, then such a great is Lord Narayan. So we should be taking this process very seriously, because by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, we have received the holy name, which is the sword. That is my understanding. In today's translation, we see Yad anudhyasina yuktaha karma granthi nibandhanam chindanti kovidas tasya ko na kuryat katharatim. With sword in hand, intelligent men cut through the binding knots of reactionary work. So people may wonder, what kind of sword is that? Should we bring swords from tomorrow to the temple? What kind of sword is being talked here? So that sword is the holy name of Krishna. So we will, I'll stop here. So holy name is ultimately the most powerful. Sarvatma snab padam param vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. Krishna's holy name is the ultimate victorious. Chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra is ultimate benediction to the humanity. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai.